The guys have jumped out to a monster lead with 47. Show me how you take a shot.
Hello, got my vitamins. I don't know why I'm starting the video taking my vitamins. Let's try that again. Hello, my name is Jasmine. I'm an illustrator. Welcome to my channel. For today's vlog, I'm going to be documenting maybe a week of work. I'm not sure. But if we are doing a week, we are starting that on Tuesday evening. There's the date mark. What's in the works right now? What are we doing here? We are fully returning to drawing pages for my medieval comic Girl Night. We are on page 9 of the 3rd chapter. 2 of those chapters you can read on Webtoon, so I am working on chapter 3. So that is where we're starting in this vlog. I wasn't able to jump right in, and I still can't quite do that because over the weekend I finished revising the entire script of the comic, and in doing so, I actually cut out a ton of scenes. 22 script pages, which I think would be like 35 to 40 comic pages, which is a lot. And I feel perfectly fine doing that, even though it was a little painful to get rid of some funny or some nice scenes. But at the end of the day, if it's not directly affecting the plot, we can removed, because every page costs money and it costs time. So yeah, I had to do something quite difficult this weekend, but it's done. And in removing certain scenes, I actually removed one short scene from chapter 3, which is what I'm currently working on. That scene is actually page 9. Just in the nick of time, I removed the scene I hadn't yet drawn. Thank God. I think it would have been very painful to remove it if I had actually drawn it. In removing that scene, I reprinted the script, and I'm trying to figure out, having removed that scene, how does this affect the thumbnails and the composition of the pages? Because it turns out that that scene was a page from 2 separate pages, right? So half of one page and half of the other. So if I remove that, I could technically mix the other two. Let me show you. So we're on page 9. Let's see if we can get you. This is page 9, the thumbnail for it. The beginning of the scene that I deleted is right here. All of this I have to remove. And then on page 10, I'm removing the top part, but I'm keeping the lower part. That means that I move this to this. And so I lose a page. All of these page numbers, I have to subtract 1. This is now page 10. Before I can jump into drawing page 9, I have to update these numbers, basically white out and redraw the numbers. And worse yet, I have to fix the page number of 13 pages. So, because I had already put the panels down. Not a big deal, I'll just do the whiteout. I'm very organized, and when you're drawing a comic series, you have to stay organized. So I can't just let this go and work on the wrong page numbers on here. They have to be updated. So I'm gonna do that, which is gonna take some time. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be listening to a new book that for some reason I added it to my library. I don't remember where I got the recommendation or where I found it, but I'm gonna be listening to this book. I have the audiobook from the library. I am about 10% in. I have no idea what's going on. The main character has just learned that she is the carrier of the gift of dream walking, so she can walk into people's dreams, she can manipulate them, and she's still learning the family secrets of what else she can do with this power. And that's it, that's all I know. Let's go. Here we go.
Why were we given this gift? How was it used before Ravana? Celine pressed 2 fingers to her forehead. It seemed either no one knew, but with many house secrets guarded so carefully, the chance of actually finding something about the houses was remote. Rest while imagining locking away your heart in a cedar chest. Don't think. Breathe in. Don't feel. Breathe out. Celine closed her eyes and pictured the people around the castle. The servants, the guards, the but knew her mother would never tell. Each mission was held in sacred secrecy around its mouth. Hagatha brandished the stick, her heart beating like a galloping horse. Celine's own heart sped up to match it, but turned her head halfway, keeping an eye on the approaching wolf. Papa! Fur and skin became coated in blood.
I needed to combine 2 pages, so I just erased the deleted scene from both pages, and I cut one, and I think that should be fine. So once I draw them, I'll just put a paper clip. I'm just not going to try to draw the panels into this one. I'm too lazy. And now we can get to re-updating the page numbers. That is such bummer work. But that's what you get when you mess around with pages. So I've updated the page numbers, and I really hope I don't have to do this again. With the corrections done, it's 6:30. I'm gonna do a little bit of anatomy study before I fully jump into comic drawing. For my anatomy studies, they're pretty quick. I have a ton of files that I've purchased from Graphit Studio. I've bought the one specifically for my Girl Night comic, so medieval dresses, so that I'm familiarized with how dresses drape and all that. I have Female Warrior, and I also download their free packs whenever they're available. So yeah, if you're wondering where I am getting these anatomy photos, I just get them from Graphit Studio. I'll add their link on the description. It's just easy for me. I know there's tons of websites, there's tons of creators. Right now I'm doing Graphit Studio. Once I go through these photos and get kind of tired of drawing them, I will try other reference packs.
With a small guest, and there were rarely any guests at Rook Castle. Her mother stopped before a wall inside one of the guest rooms and pressed on the hidden indents, slammed her mouth shut and closed her eyes. To kill the sleeper. Her mother said the words with such casualness. Her dream walking abilities to kill? Her voice didn't quaver or stumble over the word, but her heart gave a twinge. Oh, there might be a couple of people who suspect the dream gift still exists, and even fewer people who would consider that the gift is used in such a way, because it is believed that...
I don't know about you, but it's really hard to get into audiobooks for me, because all of the audiobooks that I've tried to listen to sound like that, and to me that's just jarring. When we're talking about a fictional world in a fantasy setting, the way that they read the words in, for example, like in this audiobook, it just sounds so modern that it's very jarring. I'm trying really hard to get into this audiobook because it would be great if I could read while I draw. I really want to be able to enjoy audiobooks, but it's very hard because the way that the voices sound in my head when I'm reading, especially fantasy books, they sound more like Lord of the Rings stuff than that, which sounds more like, oh really? It's just, it's not at all what I imagine, and I'm trying really hard to enjoy this book, but I genuinely think that if I were to be reading it instead of listening to it, it would be a 10 times more pleasant experience. Do you have this problem too? I'm wondering if there's anyone else that feels like this, because audiobooks seem to be super popular. I just cannot get into them, at least for the types of books that I like to read. This could be a great book that I could enjoy, and this audiobook is ruining it for me. I'm going to keep playing the audiobook because we're at the point in the story where this is like the training for the main character. It's kind of boring, so I might as well just play it in the background and follow along. And then once we're getting into actual juicy stuff, which I'm assuming she's gonna go on missions to do some spy stuff through people's dreams, like once we get into that exciting stuff, and maybe even the love interest, maybe once they come in, yeah, I'm gonna have to move over to the reading portion, which I do have the copy from the library as well. I got both. I was afraid that this was going to happen, but yeah, maybe once the love interest comes in, I'll jump mediums. Do you prefer to listen to audiobooks or read them? Do you have this problem? Let me know.
No one knew Urbana was one of the original Ravenwoods.
For this anatomy study, I'm focusing on the drapery of the sweater. I would like to know more about how clothing drapes on bodies, and so for this particular pose I want to get her sleeves right. She has this like funky sporty jacket with like lots of zippers and wrinkles over here. It doesn't really make sense in the drawing, but it's pretty complicated in the photo. I want to be better at drawing hands, in particular where the knuckles and the fingers meet, because it's a little tricky. This model in particular, I've drawn her in other photos and she's quite short, so her proportions, I always mess them up because I'm used to drawing the more classical proportions of the 4 or 5 heads, but she's pretty much like 3.5 head space. So like if her hand's here, her knee is actually up here, and of course I drew it lower than what it actually is. But yeah, her center line is right here. God, I totally messed up her legs. And this is why we practice anatomy studies, because don't want to be doing these mistakes on an actual comic page. What I like to do is if I mess up a drawing like this, I'll go in with a different color and correct it myself. I'm going to do blue pen, and so her leg is actually over here. The femur goes down here, connects with the knee, and then we got the shin bone that goes like this, straight down. It's the muscle that curves around it. And then you got the ankles. For these, I wanted to get the general stance, the relationship of the body with the sword, and like how does the body shift its weight when it's holding the sword. I want it to be ingrained in my brain. The foot positions, where the elbows are at, those little gestures, I want to be able to memorize them, and when I have to draw it in the comic, I want it to be pretty natural where I position things. I will keep making these. I think I'll make them a little bit smaller because that took longer than I wanted to.
Why did Mother want them to fight now? Fatigue and the ebbing shock from her mother's revelation penetrated her muscles like a poison. Lean panted, then went in with a rush of striped castle. There was a small entrance to the underground labyrinth beneath the balcony of this room. I know. Celine knew almost every tunnel and opening below the castle. The knowledge gained from years of exploring the underground maze as a child. You do. That bit of information seemed to take her mother by surprise. Experience. But the girl had proven a food table took up most of the area, with doors on either side that led to small private rooms. Matter.
Yeah, you're about to kill her.
Her mother shut the door and went right to work.
Exactly.
She knelt down beside the servant girl and drew back the hope their people. Shouldn't they be dressed better? And pulled her toward himself. His face was covered in a dark, unkempt beard. Deep chill penetrated Celine's numbness, shaking her to her very core.
at those bags. It's so good. I had to move the car from a parking spot that I left it last night before 8 a.m. So I guess I used it as an excuse to stop at Starbucks. It was a free drink. I used my points. It's rainy and super cozy right now in the city, so I went in my PJs. Oh, somebody saw me vlogging. It's LA, alright people? My hair gets so greasy now within like the same day of washing it, and it's not because of my actual hair. I think it's the really shitty shampoo conditioner that I bought from Whole Foods. Like, I literally bought the Whole Foods brand of shampoo and conditioner, and I've been using it for months. It has done nothing beneficial to my hair. Like, it leaves it really limp as if it was never washed. I'm trying to get through that big ass bottle, but in the meantime I have to be vigilant about greasy looking hair. Like, my hair is clean, it just looks greasy. It's very annoying. What's on the agenda today? I'm going to keep working on the 9th page of the 3rd chapter of the comic. I'm slowly chipping away at it. We also have to pack because we're going to drive to Riverside to stay with family over the weekend. So that needs to be done. And the last thing I wanted to go over here in the car, because I won't be able to do too much talking back at the apartment, I started querying for agents on Monday, and that's been an interesting journey, both emotionally, mentally, existentially, and yeah, I'm trying to remain calm and stay grounded and just overall be gentle with myself, hence getting coffee in the morning instead of just making it at home. I'm trying to do more things that are like treats for me, because I didn't think this was gonna be rough, but it kind of is. I get it now. I get why querying is such a pain in the ass. Authors complain about it all the time. I get it now. Yeah, not much is going on, but just the fact that you're waiting to get a response of either rejection or a follow-up, it leaves time for you to really question what you're doing with your project. It leaves time to ponder a life after you get all rejections, which is fine. You should be thinking about what will happen if you get all rejections. That's perfectly reasonable. You should do that. But I think where it gets to the point where it gets rough is if you fixate on it, of like, I'm gonna get all rejections, I need to start moving. It's like, no, you haven't gotten all rejections. Like, just continue to live your life as if you've never sent those queries in the first place. Like, don't fixate on, I have like 90% chance, no, probably more, 95% chance that I'm gonna get all rejections. So it is quite possible that that is a possibility. I hate using the same words. It's just a matter of, do I really need to be thinking about this right now, or could I be thinking about my project currently? Those are the things that I'm finding it difficult to control in terms of my thoughts. So hence, we got coffee. We are going to continue to be gentle with ourselves and not freak out. thrift store. We always come here when we visit Riverside. This is where we adopted Clyde, and it is time for his wings to get a little bit of a snip. He's starting to fly, which is nice, but we haven't quite been able to train him yet to properly fly. So he's just flying at random times and he's gonna get hurt. So we want to ease our way into him being able to fly eventually. So right now we're just gonna clip his wings slightly so that he's not actually able to fly. We also need to buy a bunch of supplies that we've been running low on, and I'm going to ask about a cage, because the cage that we have at my in-laws' place, he really hates that cage. He does not want to be in it. He freaks out at night when we have to like cover him inside of it. He's just miserable in that cage. And we haven't really done anything with that because we're only in Riverside like 1 or 2 nights every couple of months, so it's like not enough to do something about it since it's such an expensive thing. Like, cages cost a lot of money. But I'm going to inquire about doing like a trade or something because yeah, he's poor guy. He hates that cage. So we'll see what they're going to tell us about that. Hi! Hi, it's a little later in the day. I went to the mall briefly to get refills for makeup. I also got shampoo, nicer shampoo, so hopefully that won't make my hair look stringy anymore. After the mall, we went to our favorite thrift store and I got these books. I just wanted to show you what I got. Their book section keeps growing, and this time around they had a ton of history books. So I got this one for my husband. I'm gonna get this for him for his birthday. That's done. Then I found this book. I really shouldn't be buying any more medieval books because my research on the medieval period for my comic is done, but I enjoy reading about that time period. So this one in particular has overviews of every century inside the medieval period, and I did browse a couple passages and they were very detailed, like scholarly, so I like that. I don't like when they're too general because I'm pretty much over that. For example, the passage that I just read at the store was talking about how the manorial courts, they were slightly complex in a good way, but many people involved in litigation were too poor to even go through with any fines or penalties, so court system kind of didn't really work sometimes if everybody was poor. The other interesting point that I read was that most of all litigation was around land because land was considered the biggest asset and the only way to retain wealth. So most litigation was around land inheritance. So, which I kind of already knew that, but it was interesting to see a passage kind of breaking that down with some statistics. This book definitely passed my test of this will be an interesting nerdy read. Then we go to this time period because I am working very, very loosely on the side on a writing project that takes place in a fantasy version of the French Revolution. So reading about this time period is going to give me more ideas and refill the well for that story. So I've been slowly collecting books for that project, which I will be calling Project Queen. That explains why I got this one. And why I got this one too, Napoleon's Campaign in Russia. I already find Napoleon and his story fascinating, so this one in particular is exploring his campaign in Russia, and as we all know, it was a failed campaign. But I've always wanted to know why exactly and what happened to the actual Russians, and some of the passages that I did read did go into detail about the Tsar and how he handled Napoleon's army basically coming to conquer Moscow. It's also a beautiful cover, and it feels nice to hold. It doesn't look like anybody actually read it because it's stiff, so pretty cool. I'm excited to read it. I might start reading it today just because I find this time period super interesting with Napoleon. And last but not least, the great battles of history. This is great for story ideas. I like that it covers a bunch of battles that I've never heard of, so this will be really good fodder for references and inspiration. Very important, not just for Project Queen, but some of the other fantasy. Oh, and look at that, Agincourt for my medieval comic. That seems like such old news for me now. Yeah, not a bad haul from a very random thrift store.
Yeah, that's the hen.
Oh,
And
look at
that's
that.
the
That's the
tongue.
tongue. That is so silly.
When he gave it to me, I was like, oh my god.
Look at that. Crocodile.
I love the arm.
Silly. So silly.
Who would have ever told you you were going to end up with crazy in-laws?
That took a while. I had to figure out some account stuff with the 3D app and then just trying to get back into the groove of this comic. The in-laws went to the pet store. I'm here to keep working on this and keep an eye on the doggies and Clyde. It's been a really nice Saturday morning, you guys.
Go ahead and let you ladies take your first shot of the day. Oh, draw another dom.
No, not yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
draw another domino.
Oh my god, I just realized I fucked up.
Yes, you did.
No such thing in this game.
No.
Whoa.
Yes, God damn it.
How many do you have?
I'm out.
No.
Domino.
Aw, man.
And 47. Wow, the guys have jumped out to a monster lead with 47.
We were just making.
Should we have him take a shot?
I think so.
I think you should be taking a shot.
Let's do this, soldier. All right, soldier. Come on.
All right, losers.
Get ready to count your shit.
Wow.
She's done.
Yeah. 14.
Let me pull up the Jaeger.
20.
Fuck it.
It's a girls' night.
Yep.
La 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 la.
Carmen, you're on
That's 2 20s in a
fire.
row.
Girls
got
are
Donna.
kicking ass. He didn't hear us. Don't be.
So because he really doesn't like his temporary cage here, he's been sleeping in our bedroom, and that seems to keep him quiet. You are so spoiled. Such a good boy, but spoiled. Yeah, this is how much he hates being in the cage. He's like right here, ready to come out. I looked at used cages at the bird store and there weren't any cages that were similar to the one that he likes at our apartment, so I couldn't get one to replace this one yet.
Look at, I've never
Oh, yeah.
noticed
No, there's
that.
tons of parent stuff here.
Yeah, but I mean, we
Yeah,
told
it
them.
looks like a lot of people are waiting already.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of them. On the attic, to the basket in here, and I also want that chimney.
Happy birthday!